Good morning. How are you guys doing? I hope that you guys are having a great Saturday. I want to be very transparent in this video. Don't know how many people are going to see it, but I'm going to be very transparent, and I hope you got a second because I'm not going to put any time limits on it. I want to talk about the danger in revisiting toxic, abusive, dysfunctional people from your past. Okay. Whether they abused or victimized you in any way, shape, or form, or whatever. If it's an ex and the relationship just was really bad and dysfunctional and it didn't work out, and you both decided to part ways. Okay, whatever the situation is, it's just not a good idea to revisit that or allow those people back into your life or back into your influence or back into um your circle, if you would. And I'm gonna explain to you why. Okay. Um, the best example that I can cite is one that I've experienced in my life. Okay. I've written a book, an ebook, as well as testified on a few occasions about the fact that I was molested by my uncle, who was a police officer, New Orleans Police Department, many, many years ago, maybe between the ages of 8 and 11 years old. Okay. Um, took pictures of me. Um, well, took pictures of my vajayjay. Okay. Um, and compared me to porn stars and said that I was more beautiful than the porn stars. Okay. Um, tried penetration. I would holler and scream too much, and so not to attract any attention or alert anyone, he would stop and he would just make me perform oral sex on him. He performed oral sex on me as well. I remember a few times he fingered me while he had me in the squad car. He would be off duty. He would take us for ice cream and say, "Oh, me and Wendy are going to get ice cream." And he would finger me and then lick his fingers. Um, that had a crazy impact on my life. Okay. Um, I was the oldest cousin that would hang out at my uncle's house. I had cousins that were older than I was, but I never knew them to be at the house that much. And I think that was because their mother was aware of what was going on over there. Nobody else in the family wanted to deal with it, or they weren't aware that it was going on. But everybody else in the family would congregate at this uncle on the uncle's house. And because I guess he was a police officer, it meant that we're supposed to trust this person, and these things aren't supposed to happen at their house, but it was happening. And being the oldest cousin that was at the house a lot, I even lived with them for a period of time so that I could go to this school that I was going to in New Orleans. Um, I felt obligated to try to help and protect my other cousins that were younger than I, who I believe he may have been messing with as well. Um, eventually, I did report what was going on to the police. I called the police to my home. I remember sitting outside because, my parents weren't home. Both of my parents were working. We couldn't have anybody in the house. That was the instructions given to me. So even though it was the police, my best friend came outside, came across the street, held my hand, and we talked to the police outside. Excuse me, and I reported what happened. And I did let people in my family know what I had done. And it was then that I was ostracized and rejected. I was told I was no longer a part of the family. Um, my aunt, the uncle's wife, hollered and screamed at me right in the middle of service, called me a liar, from what I can remember, um, during service. Okay, so abuse is in my history and in my past, and I did end up leaving my dad's house, living with my mom because at this point my mom and dad were separated. Um, There's a lot more to the story I won't get into, but the whole perspective of my dad's family, they dealt with it by not dealing with it. They're very churched people. All of my aunts and uncles are named out of the Bible. My dad, I'm not going to tell you my dad's name, but all of my aunts and uncles and my dad, every last one of them were named out of people in the Bible. Okay. Very religious family. My grandfather founded two churches in Louisiana, two Baptist churches. Um, I've never met him because he died long before I was born, but I hear he was a very powerful preacher. And from what my dad tells me, had a powerful impact on the community and on the family's life. Um, my grandmother was a missionary, First House of Prayer Baptist Church in Niles, Louisiana. Okay, so I have family with churches all over. Um, Ministry runs very, very deep in my family on my dad's side. Very church people, very religious. Okay, but they did not deal with the issues. They refused to deal with the issues that was right in front of their faces. A lot of sexual abuse in our house, in our not my house, but in our family, even in the church. But I won't get too much into that. But even in First House of Prayer, there was abuse. Okay. And nobody dealt with it. Nobody talked about it. And if, because I went to the cops and reported it, I was the black sheep of the family. I was this evil villain of a girl, a young Jezebel. Okay, so fast forward 10, 20, 30 years later, um, the way that my family dealt with this was to not deal with it and to act like nothing ever happened. And by this time, I had moved up north and was trying to forge my own life for me and my kids. And I very seldom came back home for funerals, weddings, or what have you, because I couldn't afford it. Really, I wasn't angry, I wasn't unforgiving of anyone, but I just couldn't afford it. I was too busy trying to keep a roof over my head and my kids' head, and I was not worried about what my family was doing. I wasn't involved in none of that stuff. And it come to find out, I have a cousin, the second oldest cousin on my dad's side. I won't mention her name, who stayed in the family ranks, if it would. She did everything the family wanted her to do, and she rose up to become an elder in the full gospel Baptist church, Paul Martin. Um, Very powerful, influential in her own right and respect, but she had been molested too, and there was some things that she suffered through that I never suffered through as a result of her revisiting that whole dysfunctional, abusive, toxic family life and culture. Because the way that they dealt with it, I mean, even all these years after what our uncle had did to us, because it turns out at least two of us were molested, and probably more. It's just that the other ones ain't saying anything, but I'm not getting into that. And I have one cousin who's dead, so she can't say anything. But I believe he touched her too. I believe that. But anyway, they will always, when they did talk to me, Wendy, you need to forgive, and you should come to the house, and we all one family, and we could do this, and you don't have to be a stranger. In other words, in their minds, if I had truly forgiven my uncle for what he had done, then I should be comfortable taking my children back to their house and eating dinner and just shooting the breeze and ha 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 like nothing happened. And I totally disagreed with that whole mindset and that perspective. And I'm like, hell no, I'm not coming back there. And the way that it was confirmed to me that I was right. So when I was pregnant with my daughter and I happened to be in New Orleans for a little bit, my uncle happened to see me up downtown. I was very pregnant, and I had my oldest son, Donovan. He was a toddler, and I was waiting on the bus, and he pulled up. He said, "Do you need a ride?" Now, I ain't gonna lie to you. I had a very uncomfortable pregnancy with my daughter. My feet were swollen. I was tired. Donovan was crying. So I took him up on the offer to give me a ride home. And during this ride home, he proceeds to tell me how much he still think I'm beautiful and how much he missed me and all this and all that. And I can't begin to express to you how disgusted I was. Because I'm like, okay, I'm a grown woman. I've been married. I'm separated from my husband right now. I'm pregnant and I have a toddler. But I feel like I'm 8 and 9 and 10 years old all over again. I feel like he's molesting me all over again. And it was at that point that I began to realize that you can't give these jokers chances. You can't let these people back into your life. Toxic people, people that have been abusive to you, people that have used you, people that have exploited you, exes. They're exes for a reason. They're they're in your past for a reason, right? So at that point, I made a decision. I am never going to be a part of what they're doing again in my family. Not because I don't love and miss my family, but because they entertain this dysfunctional pedophile. Now, he ended up getting his. He had a stroke. He lost his job. And, he recently died of cancer last year. People came back at me last year and they was like, you heard about, your uncle and such. He dead. I had absolutely no reaction. Now, let me explain to you. He did come and visit me in Laplace. I want to say when I was maybe 20. I don't know how he happened to know where my mama stayed, but I'm not going to even get into all that. And he asked me for forgiveness. And I forgave him. And I meant that. I said, I do forgive you. Because he asked for forgiveness and I forgave him. But just because I forgave him don't mean that Yah did not allow him to reap what he had sown. Because it turns out he kept, at the very least, he kept cheating on my aunt. Because he got stroked out and they found him in the motel all stroked out, couldn't move. That's how he lost his job and he was crippled for years. So, things happen to people. You do people wrong, it does come back on you. And then guess what? I don't have nothing to do with him because when he came at me and was trying to talk to me as a grown woman, he was stroked out. So that led me to believe he may be stroked out, but he's still a pervert. He's stroked out pervert. Okay? And so at that point, I made a conscious decision that I don't ever want to see this man again. And I don't want to be around anybody who feel comfortable being around this man and treating this man like he ain't never did anything wrong. Because he's not truly repentant. Because if he had, he wouldn't have came on to me in the first place as a grown woman. And yeah, as a grown woman, the 2 or 3 times as a grown woman he saw me, he was coming on to me and reminding me of how much he missed me and what we used to do together. So he wasn't that stroked out that he didn't remember what he had done. Okay? Some people ask for forgiveness not because they're truly repentant or forgive or are wanting forgiveness. They're feeling guilty. You know what I'm saying? And the Lord is just whipping them. And it doesn't feel good. So they are looking for relief from their torment and their discipline. We can't offer that to them. People say, oh, if you forgive them, that releases them. No, it doesn't. It doesn't. Especially if they continue doing the same thing over and over again. And I say all that to say this, okay? While I had made a decision to be voluntarily estranged from my family and distance myself from them, the cousin up that was right underneath me made the decision to be right in their face. She trusted her children with them. Um, and I have to say that the difference between what has happened in our lives is incredible. I could see, all kind of horrible things that has happened to the cousin underneath me. She's lost her kids. Um, she's been ashamed in ministry. She's had to deal with some really, really horrible things. And it's made her have to stop and really deal with the abuse that she suffered. And I know she was suffering. And that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to help her not go through what I had been through. But nobody else in the family will support me in trying to cover and protect the children that they say they love. I don't know. Everybody got to do what they got to do, I guess. But because I feel like I was better off, even though I struggled in other areas financially, in and out of shelters, whatever. I still feel like mentally I was better off making the decision that I made to be voluntarily estranged and not deal with a toxic, abusive, dysfunctional pedophile person. And her life was grossly impacted and negatively impacted because she stayed in a dysfunctional, toxic, abusive environment. And the same thing could be said for people who deal with exes. That's a dangerous, dangerous thing. You be in a relationship, you love them, and you go through whatever you go through, and then you realize, okay, this is not a good relationship. This is toxic. This is abusive. This is whatever. I need to bounce. And you bounce. Or it doesn't work out, or you break up. Okay, once it's over, let it be over. Okay? Don't try to stay in their lives, and don't have mutual friends that come back at you with gossip about what they're going through and what's good in their life and what's bad in their life and how their relationship with their current boo is, and if they ever need breakups or whatever. That's very unhealthy. Leave them alone. Leave them in the past. If it didn't work out, it didn't work out for a reason. Leave them alone. Don't even let curiosity get the best of you, and I wonder what they're doing and how they're doing. Let y'all deal with them. Especially if it's a situation where they did you wrong. Baby, it's best that you stay far away from people like that. Because I promise you that people who do people wrong, y'all do get them. And I know people don't like to talk about that, but it's true. It is a principle. It is a divine principle of Yah that vengeance belongs to Yah. So if if it's belong to him, you don't think that he gonna vindicate you. And when he start vindicating and he start dispensing judgment and he start chastising and disciplining folk, you need to stay far away from them. Don't feel sorry for them. Don't, oh, I feel so sorry for them. No, don't feel sorry for them, because they're reaping what they have sown. And a lot of times they may have sown in more than one person's life. So the bad seeds that are being reaped in their life were seeds that they sown in more than one person's life. You only know half the story, 1/3 of the story, actually, because there's three sides to every story. There's your side, there's their side, and then there's your side. So it's just good to just stay away. If people are toxic, abusive, and dysfunctional, and then they have a reputation for doing people wrong, leave them be. And stay away from them mutual friends that come up in your ear with all the same, the latest gossip about what this and what that. Stay away from all that foolishness. It's bad for your spirit. It's bad for your spirit, boo. I stayed away from my dysfunctional family. I'm all the better and stronger for it. Even though I went through what I went through and my kids went through what we went through, I feel like we're better off than what my cousin is going through right now. And I feel bad for her and I pray for her. But a lot of the stuff that she's going through right now was because even after the abuse happened, she stayed up under that dysfunction and that mess and had to pretend to act like none of that stuff ever happened. Who knows? She may have blocked it out and didn't even remember it happened. And I feel bad for her. I feel sorry for her. But this is what my family said. Well, if you're a Christian and you really forgive, then that means you can still come to the Christmas dinner. That means you can still come to the auntie and uncle house for Thanksgiving. That means you can still hoof, 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 and laugh and pray and joke around with your abuser and your pedophile. No, that ain't how they go. No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I'm better off for it. And I could look back at 50 years old and look at everything and examine it and say, Lord, I thank you that I stayed away from that foolishness. And to this day, I don't hear about it. I don't care what he went through. If you suffer because you deserve to suffer. You sown a lot of seeds you planted a lot of seeds, and they're just coming to harvest now. I don't want to hear about the weeds that's planted up in my abusers' lives or my exes' lives. I don't care. You reap what you sow. I ain't got nothing to do with it. Nothing. And it ain't because Winona's sitting here praying for anybody to go down and have toil and turmoil and their trouble. Please, Winona ain't got that kind of time. I'm writing books. I'm working. I'm doing community work to try to better the way that minorities and the mentally ill are being treated in this community. You think I got time to worry about some ex? You think I got time to worry about some pedophile uncle? The Lord took care of him. He gone now. You think I got time to worry about my enemies? Really? You gotta have that mindset that you just don't want to deal with them no more. You don't care what happens. You done put it in y'all's hand and you moving on with your life. Let them call you a witch and a Jezebel if they want to. There's a lie and the truth ain't in them. And they foolish and they don't understand what's what. So that's all I'm trying to say. Let them boogers stay in the past and you move on with your life and trust Yah that He's going to dispense the judgment and the vindication and avenge you your adversaries, no matter who they are. And it ain't got nothing to do with you. It is all up to Yah. Ain't that awesome? Now I'm going to get on off of this phone. You guys have a great day. Smoocha.